The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast, inspired by some of the quirkiest dogs you can ever imagine and the owners who love them. This podcast is brought to you by the quirky couple themselves, Scott and Jess Williams. Their aim is to educate and entertain. Here's Scott and Jess.
Welcome, guys, and happy Wednesday. We are joining you today with some of our dear clients, but first we are going to start with the quirky tip of the day. Good job, babe.
That was a distant.
You're so far away. I know. All right. So our quirky tip, you guys, last week we talked about wounds, and I had chlorhexidine in the bag so it wouldn't spill, and I never opened it. And I got to say that this is the quirky tip for this week. This is my number one go-to with antiseptic solution. You can buy it at a local drugstore or something else. And my vet actually gave me this great tip that wash your dog with whatever shampoo you want to get them clean, and then when you put this on, leave it on for at least 5 minutes. But this is a great shampoo for dogs that have like a lot of allergies or they have some open wounds or something else. Chlorhexidine is what they use in surgeries, and it's awesome. So that is concluding our wound episode from last week.
Thank goodness.
So this week we have Alexandra and Chris Carter with us. They were personal clients of ours this year. Yeah. And their dog Keeva is with us too. She's on the ground here. She's a really cute mix. You can see her on the YouTube thumbnail. But they did a board and train with us, and Keeva, I'd say, was like an outlier. What would you say, babe? Do you think she was a little stronger than most dogs we work with?
I wouldn't say an outlier. We get a lot of strong dogs. And, I mean, she's a pit mix, bulldog mix, and smart, strong, a lot of character, and she had a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And she was reactive, and that's kind of what we deal with. That's kind of a normal dog for us.
I guess she was strong for me because I would say we had her maybe a week or so, and I took her out to potty at night, and she heard something like a bark from somewhere in the distance, and she's like all of a sudden like on her hind legs barking, like ready to spar, and I was like, oh my God, Scott, like normally a dog that's like with us for like 7 to 10 days would never do that in my presence, but she's come a long, long way. She's a great dog. And what was the catalyst for you guys to do some training finally? Like, how did that all come to be?
Yeah, I mean, we had been working with a trainer for a while, and we got to the point where he was like, we were still experiencing all of the behaviors that we didn't want to experience with her. We had some tools, this isn't like, I'm not trying to speak badly about this trainer, but I think that he was like, okay, I think your next option with her is medication. Right. And we were like, we really think she's got more potential than that. We're not against medication, whatever that, we don't have really feelings one way or the other, but we just thought that we could maybe do more with her than just medicating her. And so we hopped on good old Google and found you guys.
Go to Scott. So when you went to their house, babe, she was like pretty sketchy, right? I wasn't there for that first one.
Yeah, she was fearful, and I was glad she was on a leash. And I always want to work with the dog outside of the house because of the territorial component. They're a little bit more or a little bit less protective when they're outside of their house. So we got her out in the parking lot, I remember. And also you said there was a lot of reactivity with other dogs.
Yeah.
So I had brought another dog with me, and she blew up. She was getting really ugly looking. And then I took the leash from you and worked her. I was able to work her around the other dog pretty quickly. So then I felt pretty good about her.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty quick that I was able to get into her head and get her to calm down. She seemed like once she was getting some good direction, she just felt a little calmer.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it gave us like so much confidence in you, just how quickly you were able to sort of see her. Also, the other part I probably should add is we had then, I don't know, like 3-month-old, 4-month-old baby.
Who just turned a year, by the way. Yeah. Happy birthday to him.
Yes. So, all of the issues, the reactivity, the fear.
You were worried about that stuff.
Yeah, it really couldn't continue as he was getting more mobile and older and all those things.
Yeah. All right, so talk about the cats, because I'm here for the return, and whatever you guys were describing to me, like, oh, well, she just like chases them and like corners them, or like however you described it, I'm like, wow, that's pretty serious. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we basically have to keep them completely separate up until we like started working with you guys, and she would just like corner them at the basement door. We had to move a separate cat pen in other places, and they basically made it her home and not their home.
Yeah,
So-
it was like a combative environment and
Yeah.
not great for a toddler or a newborn or
Yeah.
whatever, like with charging animals and everything
Yes.
else. So
Yep.
so
Yeah.
the cat thing has gotten a lot better.
Yeah. It was like we were talking about on the way here is that Keeva, we just didn't have an off button for her. So she would get like keyed into things, the cats being one of the things. And it was like, there was no, she like, not saw red, not in like an aggressive way, but in like a,
Just get locked in.
fully reactive. And there was no way we could if we tried to bring her into another room, she would stand at the door of the other room, like just ready to go to find the cat when, we opened the door. So there was just no way to turn her off. And then that would create like a head-to-head battle.
But the cats never got hurt. I mean, this is
the
amazing
cats
to me.
always
No, yeah, Keeva
They're
got
scrappy.
a few. Yeah. They always had a place to escape to, which, I guess is good for them, but
Yeah.
she was, neither of them would ever back down.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was
yeah.
just, it was scary. And
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want the dog to get the eye scratched or something.
no. Yeah, or, her to get one of them in her mouth. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
scary. And then anytime we would try and intervene, what used to happen with Keeva is us joining would give her what
Like the
felt like
go-ahead.
license to keep going. And so like I would try and walk to her to grab her collar or pull her away from one of the cats, and that would give her like more impetus to like growl and snarl and get meaner.
I have more people on my team.
Right,
yes,
right, right.
yes, exactly.
Well, that is a way to encourage the bite work. You pull them away from the target and then you let them go.
Typically on the show, we don't recommend encouraging bite work towards cats, but whatever your fancy is at home. And I guess, Scott says she's run of the mill, but like on her
I
return,
wouldn't say run of the mill. I
Well-
don't think that was the phrase that came up.
she was just a standout for me because on her return, so when we had a facility a few years ago, it was like neutral ground for the return, right? And it was where the dogs had been training and been living, and then we moved in and we were living there. So when people came, they were still kind of in that zone of like, we're on our territory. When we got her out of the car,
Oh,
she
yeah.
was like, kind of whining, kind of vocal. I'm like, what the hell is this? I haven't heard you make noise in over a week. And then she was just like jumping, like almost up, like, you're
Like a
not
kangaroo.
that
Vertical.
short. And she was like jumping almost to your head. And I'm like, what is going on? Like she just like was going crazy.
Yeah.
So was that typical behavior that you
Yeah,
saw, the
yeah.
kangaroo behavior?
She would
That
go
says
to
a lot about
daycare.
our training there. As soon as we brought her home, she was crazy.
We dialed it in quick. But I was like, where in God's name is this coming from?
We took her
Yeah.
to daycare and they had 6 foot
Before.
high fences and they were concerned that their fence wasn't high enough to keep her
Yeah,
in.
she's got
Yeah.
some hops, man. So like, we got it under control quickly, and
Yeah.
she was a little noisy at first, and we worked her through all that. And I think, I don't know if one of you had the baby. You hadn't had your shoulder surgery yet, right?
No,
That was after.
no,
Yeah.
after.
Chris timed his shoulder surgery like a week after Keeva got home. It was really fun really fun for the whole family. But
Yeah.
like literally, like I'm watching this and I'm like, oh my God in heaven. And like she dialed it in and she got it together quickly. But like being back on her own turf, she was kind of like, all right, like I'm here to
yeah.
run the show again. Like show me what I need to take care of in Rochester. She's got a lot of strength in that regard.
Yeah, the second you guys gave her back to us, that is like probably the biggest gift that your training has given us is a way to dial her in, like an off button.
Yeah.
Not that we turn her off, but like
Some people would like to be able to do that.
yeah, like we can dial her back.
Well, how do you
now.
do that? Do you use the e-collar, or what do you do when she gets like real locked in on the cats and stuff? Or is it just giving her something to do, go get on your bed?
Yeah, I think it's more so go get on her bed. In
Redirection.
those
Yeah.
really like tense moments, the e-collar doesn't always see, like it doesn't even register for
Yeah.
her. Like,
Yeah.
we might as well be like petting her on the head.
Yeah. And if it's too high, it's just going to get her more stressed out. I
Yes.
would think.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just giving her something else to do, getting her on her bed. We use the gentle leader like you gave us, and we pull her nose to us so that she's focusing on us, and just redirecting, and she's able to now,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, she has some foundational training, so
Yeah.
at least she knows what to do when you're telling her to do something instead
Exactly.
of just trying to get her to stop.
Yeah.
But not, what does that mean? What else,
Right, and I think she respects us because when you did drop her off, we did have like a bumpy
Little
first
power
few
struggle.
days.
Little moment where she's like, oh, I'm home. Yay.
Yeah, back to before.
Yeah, no, and she's come a long way, and that's a testament to you guys too, is that you've put in the time and you've been really good about being communicative. Like, hey, we have a question about this, or I got a shout out to both of them. Like, you guys share success stories, which we love too. Not everybody. Normally, it's just like, okay, we hear from someone, been 2 months, another bitch fest, like, and we'll field it. Like, we love to be there to help, but you guys also have like shared your successes along the way too, which makes us feel like, oh great, Keeva's making us showing. She goes, I want to try to talk. I want to try to talk in the microphone. All right. So were you guys crating her before boot camp or no?
Yeah, we were.
Okay.
We'd probably like fallen out of really regular. Like we used to crate her. We both work from home.
Yeah.
So we used to crate her when we would go up to our offices in the attic and work. But since having Marlo, when he's home, I don't work. I'm with the baby, and I'm downstairs more. So she was being crated a lot less than she used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did crate train her.
Okay.
From the
Yeah. I
beginning.
was just wondering because she did pretty good with us too. Oh, and the eating, that was another thing.
Yeah.
She was like on the hiatus. Like when we first got her, she was like, no, thank you, ma'am. Like I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be like we always would say like she's a eat when she wants kind of dog, and it would be like
motivated at all.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, we couldn't get her to take treats, and it would be
that
like
changed a little bit.
I know.
it changed a huge amount.
She looks even porky compared to how she used to look. And now she's eating consistently, eating her meals and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's often missed, but it's a sign of stability too with the dogs. Like, you think about it, like nutty people, women are coming to mind, but like, that eat like birds and they're rarely eating. Like stability is you like sit down, you have a meal, you can intermittent fast all you want or whatever you do for your own health, but like dogs that don't eat regularly, it's showing a certain level of anxiety and instability and everything else. So I do think that's an important component. And I would say it was a good week there before she ate every meal consistently. And then she was just like Johnny on the spot, like, get that in here, I'm ready to rock. So that was a big change
And
too,
it's
I
nice
think.
because then you can use food in the training too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot with just another dog where the dog would only take a treat indoors, but when the dog went outdoors, the anxiety went up and then you couldn't give the dog a reward.
She used to be like that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was something we really struggled with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and it's
now-
nice to be able to give them some food in different situations, whether it's to reward them or to redirect them, but get them interested in food is kind of a nice little thing to have if you can use it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about for you guys? What other takeaways or foundational stuff that was causing you stress originally? Just anything I'm missing as far as the journey went along?
I think one other thing that I was saying to Chris on our drive here.
You guys really prepped well. We should, we should start prepping for the
She's gonna pull
podcast like
notes out.
this.
I'm going to go get a cup of coffee.
This is a really good idea. Like we're going to a podcast. Let's discuss it before we show up. Like this is
More than I do.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We should take this advice. This is smart. All right. So what else came up in conversation?
I was talking about how one thing that we were nervous about before working with you guys is we were sort of afraid that, we had all these dreams about our son Marlo and Keeva, like falling in love and being best friends. And, we are so cuddly and affectionate with Keeva. And we had a lot of fear that like implementing more rigid training would take some of that away. But I think in reality, it has given us what we wanted, where before, they had to be separate and we had to keep her under control and she couldn't be around other people, where like now we have the skills to, keep her in check, and then she gets to be the lovable dog that we see when it's just us with everybody.
Right. Before you guys, we would tell everyone she was a great dog, she was cuddly,
And they're
she
like,
behaved
okay.
well. And they're like,
Crazy.
yeah, right.
Crazy
Everyone would be
people.
like, your dog is insane.
Yeah.
And we're like, no. And then now everyone gets to see the dog that we know and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were saying like she was even at your son's birthday party.
Yeah, she
Like
got to
a
come.
part of.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
brought her out. She, met some of the kids that were there. She was really sweet with them. She was awesome.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. And honestly, like to us, she's been a better example of a dog on the other end of things than we even realized. And again, that's to your testament and you guys like continuing to put the work in and everything else. But she's really flourished. And I think you guys are great dog owners because you want to get her out. Like you want to be able to have her off leash. You want to be able to take her places. Some people just like have the dog and they'd rather not have to have the hassle, but like you've been able to incorporate her more in life because of the training. And at the end of the day, she has more freedom with more control, which people don't really process right away.
Yeah.
She's like, I do. See, I'm here and I'm jumping up and it's great. You're a very good girl. Any like setbacks or any troubles that you guys have had? I know that you had like a few times on the street that got a little hairy. Like, kind of explain that. Just, it's not a magic road. I don't want people to think like, oh, you train and everything's fine.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think that, we've certainly had some setbacks. I think I would say most of them are like us learning because it's also new to us. And so I think it's when like we get overwhelmed or we get flustered and confused and don't give her the right directions or, useful directions. Oh, now you're really getting
Yeah, she
involved.
goes, no, I like it here. No, it's happy. What is Scott smoking? Hey, we're at a cigar studio. This is what happens here.
But yeah, we've had, there are dogs in the neighborhood that don't like Keeva because, we always say Keeva has never met a dog she didn't like, but there's lots of dogs that don't like Keeva. And as Scott's seen, when there's a dog that doesn't like Keeva, Keeva is not afraid to take that on.
Yeah. She has a lot of presence too. I
Yeah.
can see why other dogs in the neighborhood would be like, whoa, you just
Yes.
came onto my street. She's a lot. She has a lot of presence.
Yeah, she's full on.
Yeah.
So
She's very willing to be friends, but she's very willing to fight. How do you want to do it?
exactly.
She's like, do I need to fight? I can fight somebody right now.
But I think that, we have had a few instances where
You're a good girl.
she doesn't do, all of the training, or we don't give her the right instructions in the moment, and there's a dog in the neighborhood that doesn't like her coming at her that we can't control, and then we have to figure out how to reel her back in, and in the moment we can't, which is a part of why now we use the promise collar, just to have a physical tool to have her look at us, or, even we had family visiting, and, my teenage cousin got Keeva a little bit riled up, and it was harder to then reel her back in, and she, did some of her old not so nice behavior with my aunt, or, things like that have happened. But I think mostly it's on us navigating situations and changing the way that we approach how we bring Keeva into it.
Yeah.
And staying
Or
on top
leave
of
her
it.
out of
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Just as importantly. Yeah, send the gentle leader over to me. So I guess Scott and I probably talked about this, and I probably said, oh, maybe you should try this too. But when they were out in the parking lot, she had this on, and we did not use a gentle leader at boot camp. But I think this is a great addition for people that have reactivity issues. We have friends that have daycares that just put these on some dogs at daycares just to kind of inhibit their behavior, no leash attached. And the leash wasn't attached to this, but it's just another tool if she gets fixated or if something else that you have to reach down. Because, and I'm like, oh, I'll take this off, I'll walk her in. I'm fine. I wasn't concerned about her. I was very familiar with dealing with her. But I do think that it's a nice add-on for certain dogs, especially with the intensity that she can bring. And I think it's worth noting, she looks like a medium-sized dog here. She's really trying to show her size very well here. But she's got a lot of physical strength. She, not only is she strong mentally, but she is strong physically just for her size. She probably goes up to my knees here if I was standing up, and I'm 5'6", but she knows how to use her power. Whatever is behind her genetically, there's some weight pull or something going on. So I think that's an important thing, because when you're pushing a stroller and walking the dog, or when you're having shoulder surgery, when this kind of stuff is happening, physical strength can screw you, especially as you're rehabbing and stuff. So the more control you have over a dog that's a little bit unpredictable and that is really strong physically and mentally, I think it's super, super important.
Unfortunately, you had experience with that tool before I met you, right?
Yeah.
Because some dogs have
Yeah, she was
hard
really
time.
conditioned to it out in the parking lot.
Some dogs have a hard time just acclimating to putting that on their face. They get so put out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she had never worn this before you guys.
Oh,
Oh,
she had
really?
it.
Yeah, no,
Oh, okay.
my dogs growing up all used
Oh, okay.
feathers.
Okay.
Oh, she took to it
You're old
pretty
school.
quick.
Yeah.
But I had one the other day. I put it on the dog. The dog was just having a complete fit, a complete
Yeah.
meltdown. I mean, we couldn't even get the dog to just sit still. It's just getting all crazy
Yeah,
about that
sometimes
thing.
they get a little bit claustrophobic or something.
Yeah.
So how long did you have her before you had your son? How long was it the honeymoon phase of just you two with no kid in the picture?
I think
and a
about a
half.
year and a half before.
Okay.
But the honeymoon phase ended probably
And you still decide to have the kid.
yeah. So far,
kids
he's been a great addition.
Yeah, the kids are sometimes easier, honestly.
Yeah.
So it was a year and a half of just her, but you still had a bunch of this bullshit. It wasn't just smooth
We had
sailing.
the cats before her, so
Yeah.
that was all still there.
We got her when she was 3 months, and day one we took her to PetSmart, and she was she was a little baby puppy barking at other dogs and barking at people, and I was
Yeah.
none of the other puppies are doing this.
Yeah, what's happening?
What did we get?
Right.
I can't remember. Did she have any bite history? Did she bite anybody?
No,
Yeah.
no, she hasn't.
I think you had told me that too in the beginning, and that's probably why I felt a lot more comfortable with her.
We take bite
Lot of-
history dogs.
No,
Scott
but
always acts like, that would be the precursor that we wouldn't have her, but you
it
just had to
depends
ask.
on how bad they.
Yeah, no, if
how
it's a
big of
bad
a bite
bite,
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But no, she was just she's much more likely to go after a dog than a person.
Yeah.
With people, she barks, but she's not going in and And we have a lot of dogs that do that. They bark and come right in and bite you in the leg.
Yeah, and I think it was more fear-based with people, but yeah, towards the animals, definitely like
She has
forward
no problem
reactivity.
with animals.
yeah.
She'll show
Go
him.
right in.
She'll show him who's boss. So how have the cats' lives changed? Because we don't often talk about cats, but I know that a lot of families have both. What has been different for them, like since she's been back? And
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't changed, like, it's not been like a huge shift. They're
I would
older
say-
cats, and
well,
so
like,
they
Finch
are.
would just be upstairs, but now his main room is the basement, and you have to go through her zone to get there.
Yeah,
And
the
he
cats
spends-
mostly live on our upper floors, and she mostly stays on the ground level, and then we have a basement, and so they have a litter box in the basement and a litter box upstairs. And one of them, they both used to just stay upstairs. We basically were ready to get rid of the litters in the basement, which is our preferred place for the litters, because who wants the litters in their house? But now, I'm seeing it more and more. I think they're slow. I don't know. They have big personalities too, our cats. But they're starting.
just wait till your son grows up. You're gonna have a whole house full of it. You guys are gonna be ready to go. Yeah.
But they're starting to make their way back to the basement. Certainly, one of them is back. The basement is his zone, and he doesn't mind running through. But yeah, I think that they're just.
Sometimes he'll just hang out on the stairs and look at her I know you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because I remember on the return we were like, keep her on lockdown because we want the cats to feel comfortable in the four walls they live in too. It's important that all family members feel okay to move about their house. You don't want to be sequestered to a level or a room or something else. Right. So I think
the last time I was there, we had one of the cats in the living room with us with Keeva. Maybe she was on the couch or she was floating around. You brought her in and put her on the floor or something.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
sometimes Scott tells stories that were other clients too.
No, I remember I told you to get the cat and bring the cat in.
Yeah.
Just to see how crazy she was going to be about the cat. But she was pretty, mentally locked down. She was just calm.
Yeah, and we took her up to Chris's family, and they have his sister's house where we're at. She has a cat, and it's a pretty old cat that I think is deaf and blind. So it had no idea Keeva was there, and we had Keeva on her bed, and Pumpkin was just sauntering by, and Keeva was pretty keyed in, but she didn't get off her bed, and she listened to us still, and so I think our cats are slow on the uptake, but she's manageable, so we're not stressed about the cats.
Yeah, and I do think it's the compounding stress in the household, and people don't often realize that. The baby's crying, they're stressed, then this happens with the cat, then the cats are stressed, now the dog is stressed, and all of a sudden, the energy is just building, and every living being in the house, the plants are feeling it. It's just, it becomes a little bit too much.
And now your son is very mobile.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say.
They sent us a photo of your son climbing up on the bed with Keeva, hanging out together on the bed. So,
Sorry.
Listen, they get along great, but let's not push it too much.
Yeah. We stopped letting him do that.
We did. We were happy. They were happy, but we were like, hey, let's have their own space. But they've developed this really nice relationship, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And as he gets older, we want the kids to be able to take the dog for a walk and not feel like the kid's going to be dragged down the street and all of
or
these
at least go in the
things.
backyard and play with the dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've had other dogs like that too. I remember one specifically that the dog was a biter. It had bit the neighbor. It had bit 2 or 3 people. They loved the dog. They were going to have a baby. And their biggest concern was that the dog and this baby were going to be a problem. They'd have to get rid of the dog. And we did some classes. It wasn't enough. We did the board and train. Everything was good. They had the baby. And then they were sending us these professional photo shoots of the baby and the dog, laying together on the blanket and stuff. And the dog they just bonded really quick.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
great.
really cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's nice to have the control.
Eventually the dog ate the kid. But
It's always with Scott. It always has to end like this. So would you say the bed is your biggest tool? What would you say, or the loose leash walking, what for you guys is if we had to pick one and that was our saving grace, what would you say?
Yeah, I think the bed is probably our biggest tool.
I mean,
Although
it's a
I don't
game
know,
changer,
even the choke collar, I think that has been, because even when the e-collar isn't working, if we just give her a few tugs on that choke collar, she really snaps back to us. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm going to give you guys
that's one of the
here.
shortcomings of the electric collar is that it doesn't give any direction.
Yeah.
And if the dog doesn't understand exactly what it's meant to, what you're trying to communicate at that time, and you're not giving any help with a leash, it's just going to make them more stressed out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So she has a metal prong. She wears a 2.25, and it has a Katie's buckles. Shout out to Katie's buckles. They're a great way to open up and close, especially, these prongs are difficult to deal with and everything else. But yeah, she understands that communication. And then we also do have her on a slip collar just in case this malfunctions. And you guys have been pretty good about keeping her on a slip collar. I think she actually needed to upgrade her size when she started gaining weight at home. I was like, hey, this one doesn't fit anymore. And she's been back for boarding, and she's literally like a different dog. At first when we had her, sometimes we'd leave the house and she'd be like a little vocal or scratching in the crate or something else. Like when she came back, I think she's only been back once or twice. I know she has a few dates in the future. She's just like super chill. She's like one of ours, like
She
super
knows the
settled
routine.
in. Yeah, like there's really little stress. So it's really nice for us to see the progress too. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves like, wow, remember the first 10 days we were here, we'd go outside and she'd be like, come back. A lot of anxiety.
And also with dogs that we've done this training with that come in for boarding in the future, we can it gives us a little insight as to how they're being treated at home. Because if they come back in and then they're not eating again, and then they're all stressed out again, it's because it's just too loose at home again, and they're backsliding.
Yeah.
If they come in and everything's great, you can tell that it's just, the house is the same way as our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing is I think the tools that you guys gave us have been super maintainable. We're humans and we have busy lives. And so there are a couple, a month or so ago, I was like, she's not listening quite as well. We've stopped being as routine about keeping up with her. And then we kind of jump back into it and she kind of
picked right
snaps
up,
back
yeah,
into
yeah.
it. And
Right.
it's easy to
Get her back.
to
Yeah,
get her back and get ourselves back and stay on top of it and not feel like we have to start from square one every time we
Yeah, the
work
foundation
with
is there now.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
the bed is
And
a great tool too, because if we forget to put it up for a moment or something, and she likes it, she goes back
put
on.
herself on the
She
bed.
won't get back off on her own.
Well, that's why we say to fold it up. We don't want confusion.
So
has
she's just
gotten
then
stuck.
she's looking at us like, can I get off? We're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't put you there.
Yeah.
And I think in the last class when I was with you guys, I wanted you to, and I was encouraging you to use the crate less.
Yeah.
Try and get her to become a house dog,
Yeah.
which is what you wanted in the first
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, we tell everyone, have this dog on lock, depending on the dog. Very strict, crate, bed, and they're like, we want the dog on the couch. Well, some dogs, they can't just go right on the couch again, not from where they came from.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I put
But
on
with her, she was doing so well, I said,
Speaking
hey,
of the buckle.
less crate, let her just be a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let her be a dog.
Yeah, and
know?
she's a good dog.
Yeah, she's doing great.
Yeah.
And you just need to keep her baseline at, a calm, fairly calm level.
Yeah,
Because she can get overstimulated really easy.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you
if
guys
she's
have a
too
long
loose.
life with her. She's young.
Yeah.
You have easily over a decade, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of hassle if
Yeah.
you don't have a decent amount of control and you don't have the confidence and everything else. And the structure, I think, is just good for everybody. You go back to the
Yeah.
basics. It kind of gets you guys redialed in,
Yeah.
okay, we got to get the house back in order,
Yeah.
and it makes her feel calmer. And just knowing that you have control of situations gives her a ton more freedom.
Yeah.
It's not like you're freaking out if the UPS man comes,
Right.
what's going to happen? Is she going to run out the door? Everything else, you have ways to combat different situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the other thing, and stop me if you need me to stop, but I was even thinking,
Talk all night.
before you guys, I was like, we're never going to be able to have a babysitter. We can't
right,
put
right.
someone else in the position where they have to figure out how to get her. In the past, we'd had our neighbor who is pretty well versed in dogs. She's a vet tech, come over and take her out if we were going to be away too long for Keeva. And she couldn't get her out of her crate. Yeah. Keeva acted super fearful. It was a real hassle. And so I was like, we'll never be able to leave Marlo with someone that isn't also trained in Keeva.
Right.
Yeah.
But now
We board, but we don't babysit.
exactly. But now we have a babysitter, and Keeva's really great. And our babysitter keeps Keeva in the crate and takes her out when she needs to come out. And then after Marlo goes to bed, the babysitter lets Keeva out, and they have a grand old time together.
Yeah, it's
That's nice.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I wish we had someone like that for our dogs.
No, but I think it's just really important. I do think the catalyst was the baby. What for you guys? Okay, so
Yeah.
that got you in the heads of if we don't do something.
Yeah, because we
gonna
were
be screwed.
having more family come visit, and
That's the thing. They all want to see the kid.
Right.
Yeah, when it's just the dog and the cats, they're like, we'll meet for dinner. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we were having a lot of people in our house, and not wanting to put anyone else in situations where they felt uncomfortable, not wanting to have a baby in situations where we felt uncomfortable. Yeah.
She can easily make people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
When she blows up, you're like, holy shit. Okay, get a leash on her quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Scott's like, she's a lot. Like, I think it'll be okay, but she's very, very fearful. And I think that fear was just a manifestation of her anxiety. So she's either directing their anxiety into reactivity or extreme fear or something else, but it was just extremes in every direction. And again, that's her strength, going places you don't want it to go. You know what I mean? You want her strength going to running and being a dog and having fun and hanging out on the couch like you were talking about and all that. Anything else I missed, babe, with the Keeva journey?
No, I would just say, just good practice to, you're having a barbecue, a bunch of people over, just throw her in a crate. Don't even have it. Because when people start drinking beer, everybody sees her Milan, and next thing you know, something's gone bad.
What do you have to say?
But
about
even
that?
at the birthday, she was able to be on the bed sometimes and in the crate and everything else. Yeah, but you kind of, I guess Scott's point, and it's a good one, is like be an advocate for her before things start going south. Because not everybody is going to listen, and not everybody understands like where you started too. Like as you start having, kids, parents, and everything over, they're not going to realize like that this was kind of a problem dog, and you guys had months, if not years, of challenge and headache, and it's gotten a long time to get to this point. She's still the same dog that was rearing up on me, random dog and Elliot bark at 10 p.m. But it just, for me, her breed is one thing. Definitely her genetics, whatever. Did you ever embark her or anything? Do you know what she's supposed to be?
Yeah, she's like 20 different breeds.
Yeah. All very high maintenance and difficult, I remember.
Yes. I think the most, she's like 33% Staffordshire Terrier, 9% Chihuahua.
Yeah.
That's
All the happy dogs.
I blame anytime she was when she used to be bad, I would say, that's the Chihuahua in her.
The Staffies have their issues too. But literally, like I remember we talked about this at one point, and like you start listing off the breeds and you're like, oh yeah, that breed has its own challenges. And then you had it all mixed into one, which is a lot to deal with. So I think that, the training and the structure definitely helped her. But again, I just have to throw it back to you guys. And this is why we wanted you specifically on the podcast. You followed through and you guys are having these conversations as a couple, like, hey, let's do this again, or this slipped, or we saw this, let's reach out to Scott, and you were great about your follow-ups and everything else. So I do think it's important just to kind of have like a meeting of the minds once the dog is back in your care. Some of these programs just like drop the dog off and they're like, good luck, and I just don't understand how that works, because there's a lot of like learning curve for everybody after that.
Well, I think also with her, some dogs are way higher maintenance than others. She's not on that high maintenance in my mind. She needs maintenance, but it's not like she has so much anxiety that you're just constantly trying to quell this anxiety. And some dogs are like that, and it's just people take on these project dogs from the rescue. They don't even realize what they're getting, and then they find out that just obedience training is not going to cut it. I mean, you need to be like on this dog a lot, and which isn't fun for anybody, but that's just what they have, and they love the dog. But with her, as soon as we started teaching her what we want, she just kind of rose to the occasion. She's like, great. I don't have to be all stressed. Good.
Yeah.
Causes
which is
less
nice.
stress for
Because
everybody.
even here, she's doing fine. This is a totally new environment for her.
And the poor dog, she walks in, I like put her on the swivel chair. I'm like, time for a photo. She's like, holy crap, what's happening to me? But she's settled in. She's ready for her own chair now. Anything else I missed from you guys that you want to touch on?
No, I don't think so. Just a funny little thing for you guys.
We love funny things.
She, as you know, was not very into like treats, and we've had to like do only freeze-dried beef liver. The most
you did give me a lot of liver. I'm like, I'm not mixing that shit with her kibble. I'm sorry. She eats kibble, no liver now. I got to tell you, she gets it for treats. Okay, so what about it?
But little did we all know that the most high-value treat for Keeva would be Cheerios.
Oh, really? Perfect. Good tie-in.
Right.
Now that Marlo is eating Cheerios, nothing.
That's where your waist got a little pudgy. Those Cheerios, they fill up quick.
Is he throwing them off the side of the high chair?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's good bonding though. For them.
He walks around with his little treat thing and like drops.
It's one for her. It's one for him. It's one for her. It's one for him.
No, that's for you.
Any kids come near Marlo at the bus stop, she's going to be like, get away from my Cheerio.
My Cheerio dispenser. That is a funny one. So yeah, look outside the box, you guys. If your dog doesn't like treats, don't just go for steak and cheese. Think outside the box. Well, thank you guys so much for making the trip and coming on. And we're so glad she's doing so well, and she's going to be coming back And everybody doesn't get offered boarding, by the way. Let's just put that out there right now. There's some dogs that we return and we're like, okay, good luck, enjoy. But no, it's great when she's able to come back and integrate into our household and just be so much more stable. And, and when you have these little slip-ups, you're tying it together quickly. And I'm happy for you both and your son and the cats. I'm happy for the cats.
They're living their best life.
Well, let us know when the next baby's on the way.
Slow down.
Maybe another dog, and then you go in the same order.
Exactly.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. Thank you to Alexandra and Chris. And Keeva, she made a big appearance, and next time she'll have her very own chair. She's ready to be a part of the podcast. If you need us, feel free to email us at studio@thequirkydog.com. And in the meantime, keep it quirky. Bye, guys.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.